This is Masters of Albion, a god game where you float above a medieval village, reshape the world with a giant hand, build up your town by day, and survive waves of undead at night. It came out in early access on the 22nd of April 2026, and it's made by Peter Molyneux. That name carries a lot of history. Molyneux made Populous, which invented the god game genre. He made Black and White, Dungeon Keeper, Theme Park, and Fable. He also made Godus, a game that entered early access in 2013, took Kickstarter money from thousands of backers, and was eventually abandoned and pulled from the platform. It left a man named Brian Henderson, who won a competition Molyneux promised would be life-changing, with almost nothing. Masters of Albion is his new game. He says it's his last. He also says it's already complete. I've spent 22 hours with it. Here's what I think of the game as a parent gamer. Masters of Albion is a god game in name. In practice, 3 games got stitched together. One of them is a hand of god management game in the black and white tradition. You float above a medieval world called Albion, grab villagers and resources with a giant ghostly hand, and reshape the world directly. Pick things up, throw them, build things, knock them over. Another is a town management and production sim. Theme Park, Anno, that family of games. You set up production chains, fill customer orders, design your own products, and grow the town. This is where most of your time gets spent. The last part is a third-person action RPG. You possess heroes, send them into caves, fight bandits, and do quests. You can also possess villagers and animals. There's even an achievement for kicking 50 chickens. Yes, like this poor fellow here. If that kind of humor isn't your thing, this isn't your game. God Hand Town Management Action RPG. 3 Molyneux games crammed into one. Whether they blend into something worth playing, that's what this is about. To understand why Masters of Albion is such a loaded thing to review, you need to understand who made it, not the name, the actual store. Because there are 2 sides of Peter Molyneux, and they're both real. In 2004, Molyneux became the 7th person ever inducted into the Hall of Fame of Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences. Only one person gets that honor each year. Those inducted before him include Shigeru Miyamoto, creator of Super Mario, Civilization creator Sid Meier, Hironobu Sakaguchi, who created Final Fantasy, John Carmack, creator of Wolfenstein 3D and Doom, and Will Wright, who created SimCity. Names that defined entire genres in the early years of video games. He didn't just make a game, he made this genre. Before Populous, there was nothing like it. You played a deity, reshaping terrain, helping your people, wiping out your enemies. The god game, the genre Masters of Albion is trying to be, starts here. One person had that idea, this one. Build a park from scratch. Manage rides, staff, queues, guests. It sounds light. It had more systems underneath than most games today. A generation of players spent hours working out how to entertain their park guests. He had a gift for making management feel like play. You were the villain. You dug tunnels, recruited creatures, and destroyed the heroes who came to raid you. Playing the bad guy and finding them likable, that was new. The humor was dark and British and very specific. You were a god, not a metaphor, an actual god, and you had a creature, a living thing that learned from how you treated it. Be kind, it became gentle. Be cruel, it twisted into evil. Your power grew from belief, from actual worship. The more followers you had, the stronger you got. I haven't felt anything like it in another game before or since. That feeling of being feared and revered. It wasn't polished. The first island alone took most players an entire evening to get through. The controls were awkward by today's standards. None of that mattered much because what it was doing, nobody else was doing. Fable is set in a world called Albion. Dark humor, moral choices, a tone that didn't take itself too seriously but somehow made you care anyway. Fable 2 in particular was a landmark for a lot of people. If you had an original Xbox or a 360 and you were somewhere between 15 and 30, there's a reasonable chance Fable 2 is one of the important games of your life. From Populous in 1989 to Fable 2 in 2008, nearly 20 years of work. Games people still talk about now and eagerly await the next title in a series. And then something changed. In 2012, Molyneux left Lionhead Studios, the company he founded, the people who made Fable, and started a new studio called 22 Cans. The first thing they made was Curiosity, a mobile experiment. Millions of people clicking on a giant cube, peeling back layers, with a promise that whoever broke through to the center would win a life-changing prize. A man named Brian Henderson from Edinburgh won. His prize was a promise of a share of the revenue from Molyneux's next game. That next game was called Godus. Godus was a Kickstarter project, a spiritual successor to Populous. It raised over $800,000 from backers who believed in a deep, fully realized God simulation. The game entered early access on Steam in 2013, but it never left early access. Years passed. Features that had been announced never showed up. Development shifted toward a mobile version with microtransactions. The PC version went quiet. Brian Henderson, the man who won the cube and was promised a life-changing share of the revenue, waited years. He said publicly he'd received practically nothing. Molyneux eventually acknowledged he had been let down. Then came Legacy, a blockchain game that launched in 2021, in a period when that particular combination of words was not exactly being greeted warm. It came, it went, died in a couple of weeks. I'm not going through this to pile on. That history is relevant to what we're talking about today. The man who made Populous, who made Black and White, who made Fable 2, is the same man who left Brian Henderson waiting for years and shipped a Kickstarter game that never finished. Both things are true, and if you're thinking about spending money on Masters of Albion, you probably already know both of them. That's exactly why the reaction to this game has been so complicated. Excited? Yes, but also a large community asking whether we've been here before. 22 Cans have said something specific about this early access that most of the coverage isn't picking up on. They say the game is complete. Chapter 1 done. As of the launch of early access. We'll get into what that actually means. But first, what does Masters of Albion actually play like based on my 22 hours with the game? Masters of Albion is basically a management sim where you build up your town by day and tower defense game where you survive waves of undead at night. The daytime is where you'll spend most of your time, and it is the strongest part of the game. The day doesn't end until you decide it does. You can spend 3 hours on a single in-game day if you want, and I have, just doing one more order. You build with a system that 22 Cans calls modular construction. Drag pieces around, snap them together, paint them if you want. No waiting for buildings to finish. You place it, it works immediately. That's a more welcome design choice than you might expect. The production system has depth. You design your own products from raw ingredients. A balanced sandwich, a rat meat pie, Customers rate them based on what they actually wanted. Get it right, earn points, unlock more upgrades. A quirk worth mentioning: the resource naming is wonky. Flour is used for any food: bread, cake, salad, soup, all of it. Flour. Metal covers any armor regardless of whether it's leather or steel. Cotton handles all clothing. Just calling them food, gear, and clothing would have made much more sense. Wood is timber, which is fine, though it seems to only really come up for the wooden walls anyway. You'll also pick things up you didn't mean to. Quite a lot. Trying to manually move a resource through the pipeline to speed things up, you'll grab a worker by accident more than you'd like to. Small frustration. 20 hours in, still happening. When you decide the day's done, the night begins. The undead come in from spawn points around the map. You have to defend the crypt and beacons at the town. Too many hits to them, the night ends badly. The first few nights are about learning. Then you find the rhythm. Turrets placed in advance, heroes on patrol, god powers for the stragglers. There's a real strategy in tracking where the spawn points are. They change place depending on which wave it is, and the game doesn't tell you that. You work it out by losing. Worth knowing. Losing a night isn't much of a setback. You return to the previous day, keep the experience your hero earned as well as upgrade points, rebuild the broken walls, and try again. No real punishment, just need to try again. Heroes are the third part of the game. Hire them at the tavern, possess them, adventure into the world as them. They can also patrol an area and fight at night as long as you place them correctly. During the day, they can heal and train for more XP and levels. Combat while possessing a hero is basic. Block, attack, not a lot more than that. It's functional, nobody really comes to this game for combat. What does work is the writing. There's a quest where you escort a man back to the tavern, and he insults you the entire walk back.
Slow down, Dungfoot!
Calls you fat-necked, says your ankles are disgusting. It's playfully dumb, and also the exact kind of British humor Fable used to pull off. That one quest is what this game actually really is. Old school, janky, funny in its own way. '22 describe Masters of Albion as a bold reimagining of the god game genre. Revel in the freedom of true godhood. It isn't that. The hand of God is a mechanic. You are not a god. You are a chosen one sitting on a throne, being taught how your own magic works by mortals who give you instructions. The whole game is built around keeping that throne safe. If it falls, you fail. Black and White had a belief system. Your power grew from the number of people who worshipped you. You earned the feeling of godhood. That's gone here. What's here is a town manager with a god hand layer on top. Not a fatal problem, but if you came hoping for the feeling Black and White gave you in 2001, that particular thing isn't in this game. Game has a slow start. The first few hours, not a lot happens. Many people reviewing the game have criticized it for that. Fair enough, but if you go back to the games we just looked at, the ones you loved, you'll find they weren't as polished as your memory might make them out to be. Populous would feel almost unrecognizable today. The first tutorial island of Black and White was really long. Fable 2 had NPCs always trying to figure out how doorways work and how to get through them. They were in rough places, and those were never addressed. We loved the games anyway. Masters of Albion comes out of that same tradition. That doesn't excuse every rough edge. The slow start alone isn't the reason to write it off, but it is something to keep in mind regarding the refund window. One more thing while we're here. Albion is the same world the Fable games are set in. at least in name. Your starting town is called Oakfield, which is also a village from Fable 2. Don't expect a direct match though. In Fable 2, it was a proper village with stone walls and brick buildings. Here, it's a handful of structures you can modify and move around. Same name, very different scope. Here's something about this game that I haven't seen anyone else say clearly. And given what we've just covered, it kind of matters more than it might sound at first. Masters of Albion is planned to be in early access for around 12 months. Quite standard for early access games. But what 22 Cans actually say about those 12 months is worth reading closely. From the Steam page directly. The early access version includes the complete Chapter 1 experience from start to finish. And then, all features described in the About This Game section are present in early access. In an interview with IGN while talking about the Masters of Albion early access, Molyneux said this clearly. This first chapter is a classic beat of that narrative story. There's going to be love, loss, hate, and betrayal in that first episode of the story. So it is a complete game. In other words, by their own description, the game is content and feature complete right now. The 12 months isn't to add features or expand the world in any meaningful way. The Steam page says that time goes toward improving combat feel, balancing systems, expanding interactions, and strengthening how different mechanics connect. That's polish, not content or features. Think about what that means against the history we just covered. Godus entered early access in 2013 and never came out. 22 Cans are now saying the opposite, that what you're buying is done. Chapter 1 is finished. That could mean a developer who learned from those failures and is being honest about what they're actually offering this time. It could also be a way of justifying shipping something rough by calling it complete. I don't know which one it is, but it is worth considering before you spend any money on the game. And then there's the trilogy. In that interview with IGN, Molyneux said that Masters of Albion is Chapter 1 of a planned 3-part series. His words, "It's going to take quite a few years to get to Chapter 3. He also said, "If it brings joy to people and there are enough of them, we'll go forward with 2 and 3, but you need money to do this." Chapters 2 and 3 aren't part of this purchase. They depend on this one selling well enough to fund them. And there's a real possibility that whatever this early access makes is already going toward Chapter 2 rather than polishing what's here. We've seen a version of this before, a Molyneux project in early access with big plans, where the current product stays rough while the dev team seemingly moves to the next game. Whether Masters of Albion follows that path or whether this time is actually different, that's the bet. The current state of the game. Some of this is expected for early access. Some of it goes a bit further. Performance is bad, like really bad. Even at lower settings, you can't get to 60 FPS on 4K with a 5090. And the strange part is that half of the visual options in the settings menu don't actually seem to do anything. Change them to any level and the result is basically the same in terms of performance. 22 Cans flagged this on launch day, calling performance and stability a top priority for the upcoming update. They know about it. And the update 1.1 did arrive a week after launch, but no significant improvements to performance came with it. Just a note saying, "We want to be upfront. Performance still isn't where we want it yet in this build. It's a big focus for us right now and the team is hard at work on improvements." So those improvements might come at some point. It's not an utterly horrible experience at the moment, but you do really need more than a low-end computer to be able to enjoy the game. In addition to performance issues, there are some real bugs. My 22 hours included 2 full crashes. The 1.1 update should have fixed some known bugs and made changes so players aren't able to progress too fast on certain aspects that end up breaking their game. The save system is worth a quick explanation because it can be quite confusing. There is no manual save button. The game saves per day, start a new day, and that's your checkpoint. But when you quit, it saves your exact state of the game. When you return, hit continue and you're back midday right where you left off. It works like a manual save. It's just inside the quit menu rather than a dedicated button. Fine once you know it. Confusing until you do. Cutscenes can be paused but not skipped. Small positive for parent gamers, but also a bit annoying. If you're like me, a parent, a gamer with kids and responsibilities, and have maybe an hour to play a few nights a week, here's whether Masters of Albion actually fits into that life. It's the thing I always want to figure out before I buy a game. Here's my review of Masters of Albion for gamers with limited time to play. Moms, dads, the parent gamers. Starting with the positives. The game can be paused at any point, including mid-wave during the night defense. A lot of recent games won't let you pause in combat. This one does. That alone puts it ahead of more games for parents than it should. The day length is yours to control. The story and quests don't progress until you move them forward. 25 minutes before you want to go to sleep, play a day, quit, done. 3 hours because you can't stop optimizing a production chain, also fine. The game fits around your schedule. There are no daily login requirements or live service aspects. No microtransactions or FOMO. The early buyer bonus is a cosmetic paint pack that honestly wasn't all that interesting. Low volume works fine. Night phases have some audio cues, but the visual cues are clearer anyway. No headphones are required, which matters when kids are asleep and you need to hear if one of them wakes up. The other side. The "I'll do this one more thing" trap is real, but it's not where you'd expect. It's not the days and nights to go forward in the game. It's the production pipeline. Let me just finish this order is sneakier than one more day because it just keeps giving you more and more of them. The content is mature leaning, dark humor, some blood, language that comes up more than occasionally. Background rather than constant, but it's there. Right now, during early access, it's PC only. Steam Deck is pending Valve verification and console versions are planned for after the early access. Masters of Albion, $25, early access. Is it worth your time and should you play it? Here's 5 criteria to help you decide if you should play it, if it's worth your time and money. You played Black and White or Fable 2 and you've been waiting for something like it ever since. This is the closest anyone's come in 20 years. The humor is here. The British charm is here. So are the bugs and the rough edges. Buy it if you can sit with an unfinished feeling game and find the charm worth more than the frustration. Wait 2 or 3 months if you'd rather it be a bit further along first. You're drawn to a cozy management sim with actual depth. The daytime is good work, more substance than many cozy games offer. You came for the God game feeling, the one Black and White actually delivered. Power, worship, the sense that the world bends to you. That feeling isn't here. The mechanic is, but not the feeling. Wait, or be honest with yourself about what you were actually looking for. you're on console or you need a finished experience. Wait, the 1.0 version will be a better game. Console versions should be coming but are not yet available. You don't have any nostalgia stake and are just looking at this code. It's an odd genre hybrid at $25 when new games run $70 or $80 at AAA titles. Not what the God game fans were hoping for. Worth something at that price if the mix of mechanics sound novel and interesting to you. As for me, I think $25 on this game specifically isn't too steep. I don't feel as connected to the game and the God game aspect as I did with Black and White. But if you enjoy this type of game and the performance issues get improved at some point and the mechanics are polished, then I would say the game is worth the money. I think the game strikes a nice balance between cozy creativity contrasted with chaos and danger. But there are also plenty of different ideas packed into the game that you'll just ignore either because you don't care about them or due to them just being way too cumbersome to do. I do have 22 plus hours in the game and I've spent too much of it just optimizing those production lines that I still have more of the game to see, and I do intend to play this chapter 1 until the end. 22 cans say this game is complete. Chapter 1 done as of launch. The next 12 months is for polish, not new content. Whether you believe that depends on how much of the track record you're willing to set aside. He made Populous. He made Black and White. He made Fable 2. He also made Godus, and Godus never left early access before being abandoned. Maybe he learned something from those failures and this time is different. Maybe it's the same pattern, dressed up differently. I've spent a decent amount of time with this game and I still don't know which one it is. What's here can be enough. For some people it won't be. But if you're buying this hoping chapters 2 and 3 follow, buy it for what's in front of you now, not what might come. After all, Molyneux said, if there are enough people, we'll definitely be going forward with Masters of Albion 2 and 3. But you need money to do this, and it's going to take us quite a few years to get to chapter 3. The full completion and polish of this so-called first chapter and the sequels are all bets on someone who has earned both your skepticism and your goodwill. I'll be following this as the patches roll out, particularly once performance is sorted. If you found this video helpful, leave a like and subscribe for more content made for you, the parent with limited time to play, the mom gamers, the dad gamers, the adults finding time to play around real-life responsibilities. And if you want to support the channel directly, there's a Ko-fi link in the description. If you'd like to see more content on Masters of Albion during the early access, drop a comment below. Molyneux says this is his last game, or I guess he changed his mind and now it's games, plural. We'll see. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next one.